My old man got me into gaming back when I was a toddler. Things have changed in the 30-odd years since then, and I'm not just talking about the graphics. You see, my old man's changed a bit since then. Yup, he died. Having played the first game on the channel already, 2 months ago for July, I wanted to get through Coffee Talk 2 for the next short game on the channel to keep up with the coverage of these just absolutely beautiful games. Before I go further, I must mention something that was on my mind the other day, that I don't really give a ranking or a rating for these games, as far as I can remember. Sure, yeah, Yakuza 0 is in my top 10 favorite games, but that's a special case. For me, these games are less about trying to decide what they're worth, and more about what they made me feel. I wouldn't cover games that I don't think won't make me feel something at the very least, and this channel is about our relationships with the art that we choose to consume, and man, I am a glutton for well-written games, and specifically the characters within them. Know that if a big video comes out for a game that I've played, and I didn't just put the bare minimum effort in, that I likely believe you should experience the game as well. I won't really go over other games like this, that'd be redundant with the previous video on the series, but I can briefly go over how that game made me feel so that I can better explain how I'm approaching this game. Besides the fact that I was so gung-ho about playing this game next line in the short game slot, the first entry into the series is just... the vibes are immaculate, man. Fucking the soundtrack is lo-fi beats at some of its best. The art is overall pretty solid. It seems like a warm cafe where you want to belong. A schoolmate, his parents had a cafe. It feels not dissimilar to how that place felt. Only, I'm not allowed to go barefoot in this cafe. In case you're here having just clicked on this video with no idea of what this game is, and because I forgot that maybe people like you exist, Coffee Talk and its sequels are functionally visual novels, story-heavy games where your choices impact the story. Only in these games, the choices are which drinks to mess up or what objects to not give people at the right times. In the previous game, a bad drink could lead to somebody becoming a paraplegic. The worst that happens in this game is an attempted ethnic cleansing becoming more viable, as well as an ancient twink being struck with more malaise than a Victorian child learning what neo-feudalism is. Oi! The fuck you mean rich white dudes reinvented serfdom and ghost currencies? The format of this video is gonna be a bit different than other ones. There's so many characters, and the last game was a bit of a nightmare to try and organize them, so I'm just gonna introduce you to this colorful cast of hot bean juice slurping weirdos, and then cover some topics that the game explores while weaving in the relevant characters as I go. If you're new here, this is the kind of video you watch while high, or questioning your life, or both if you're a lucky son of a bitch. All in all, I hope you enjoy your time spent with me, because knowing my fuck ass, this is gonna end up being over an hour of socio-political commentary and gay jokes, and I'm not just talking about my exes. I'll be going over this lovely lot in the rough order of their appearance. There are two characters best saved for last, as they are in the endings. There will be a section dedicated to just them and the major theme of the game, as well as its sorta central story. And from here on out, I don't have full script to go off of. I decided, you know what, I'm gonna try out another method of doing script writing. So you're gonna get me at my rambliest, because some people like my rambling, and I didn't want to spend an entire week writing a 20,000 plus word script. So here we go. First character up is Georgie, and guess what? I got all the Georgie I could ask for. He is back. He is still black. It would be weird if he were back and no longer black. But he's achieved his final form. He's daddier than ever. He has jokes in the Tamagotchi, the Tamagotchi, the friend app on your phone, where you get to see your friendships with people, and also they got this Instagram kind of thing. I don't use Instagram, but I think it's kind of like Instagram. It feels like Instagram. I don't use any of those things that young humans use. I was born old, crippled, and in a sack of pure rage and ruin. Anyway, he makes a lot of dad jokes on there. They're pretty sweet. I liked like everything that the characters posted. I don't think it does any. I don't even think there's an achievement tied to it. But I was like, you know what, Georgie? I appreciate your corny ass jokes. So he's back. He talks about his daughters a lot. I think he's got like 3 daughters. His youngest is dope. She's making stuff for Etsy. The wife slashes her mom sells them for her. It's adorable. Georgie brings up a lot of ghost stuff. It's spooky. It's tied to the main story of the game. Technically, there's technically a main story to the game. I would say there's 2 main stories to the game. The other one involves a wedding. That in order for you to get the perfect ending to the entire game you gotta fuck up the wedding from happening by giving people the wrong bean juices. Isn't that lovely that we can truly just ruin a 2 people's wedding by just giving them the wrong juices? Man, sometimes you cause weddings to happen by giving out your juices freely. Next up is a satyr dude who is the first of the 2 new characters, and oh boy, they're both pretty fucking cute. It's great. Anyway, his name is Lucas. He's a bit annoying at times, but he's annoying in that, like... Oh, hell. I was about to say, oh man, I shouldn't say it like that. I've already been told that some things I say sound more cursed than I had planned. But anyway, he's an influencer. He's from California. He's high energy. He talks like a young person. And I don't like that shit a lot of the time. But you know what? He's kind of charming. He's a nice boy. He calls Georgie Pops, and he calls the next character Lady. It's pretty cool. I like how my notes for him is just bit annoying, but he's young. Maybe he'll evolve into a lesson. I don't feel like he's gonna go to Japan. Wild if he shows up in the next game in Copy Talk Tokyo, but I've got the nagging suspicion that he's not gonna end up in Tokyo. He's in fact going to stay in Seattle, the hellscape that it is, and keep doing his podcast with the next character, Riona. Riona is a banshee, which from what she's a semi-material being. They're semi-corporeal or something. When they die, they just kind of blip out of existence. So I don't know much about the physiology of banshees. It seems like she makes the lights go off that one time, but that could just be the power outages and shit. But also, they've got really cool voices. They're all sopranos and stuff. That's right, they're all Italian gangsters with an ending that people are still debating 10, 15... I don't know when The Sopranos ended. Whenever, subtract the years. Anyway, she's got goth girl vibes, she's got freckles, she's adorable. I love her hair. Next up, and the rest of them are going to be returning characters for the most part. First of the returning characters besides Georgie, Myrtle. She's just as butch as she's ever been. She's got big butch energy. I'm trying very hard not to say bitch energy. However, like a person that would be a bitch, she does have communication issues. Though, however, I do side with her more so than the next character up, Aqua. Aqua is... Rewind. Myrtle is a half-orc. She might look full orc, but she's only half an orc. Which raises the question, how fucking butch would she be if she was a full-blooded orc? We'll never know. Also, she works in game development. Aqua also works in game development, but is an indie game person, while Myrtle works in the Call of Duty mines, like that, what is it, Raven Soft or Raven something? They got sent to the Call of Duty mines and they haven't left ever since a decade ago or something like that. Anyway, Aqua, she goes to college and she does stuff. She does like R&D, I believe. She did stuff about water physics, which I don't know if that's racist. She's a mermaid? She's a water person. She has tentacles for legs. I don't know if she gets freaky with Myrtle with them. I know she itches her head in one of the ending slides, and that's pretty cool. Very dexterous in that way. Kind of like how I can pick things up with my toes. Cursed knowledge for you to gain, and don't worry, I'll unlock more cursed memories for you. But yes, the two of them have communication issues, like any lesbian couple do, especially lesbian couples that aren't confirmed. And also, my notes for her is that she's just a cutie to booty, and her self-hype up little animation's adorable. It's great. Lua is back, and she's still a fucking banker and bad at communicating. She's basically a tiefling. She's a succubus kind of a thing. Yeah, in the setting, succubi are seen as very slutty, which, yeah, fair. They tend to do that. They tend to give the sluck 9000. I can't really do the grapefruit technique with my mouth. My mouth isn't moist enough. But picture me doing the grapefruit technique. I could technically just put in the audio, but I don't know if I want to go through that effort just for a 5-second gag. I mean, I do kind of want to put in the effort. Passing her, though, is Amanda, a new character finally. So technically, I guess the game has 3 new characters. As I've said before, Croesus, as the dragons from Skyrim would say, in Draconic? Dova, the Dova language, or whatever, the voice. I'm saying sorry in dragon. Anyway, Amanda is the sister of Silver, and is a fucking space nerd from space, because she is an alien, and dressed up as not Neil Armstrong, but instead some other astronaut. I don't know. I didn't look up to see if Amanda is a reference to some... I should have, admittedly. It is too late. I'm sorry if you're listening to this and you're the Amanda that went into space. You might be dead. Like my old man. I don't know. Either way, she's pretty dope. Silver. Talking about him now. Silver is a non-binary alien from space, formerly known as Neil, named after Neil Armstrong, because when Silver showed up, I guess they landed near a... What was it? Wasn't it like a statue of Neil Armstrong or some shit? Anyway, Neil was like, you know what? That looks like a person I should be shaped as, and then walked around in a spacesuit, kind of like how Amanda does. They're all goofy little bitches. They're all very adorable. Silver is here, Amanda is here to do research on planet Earth and all the Earthlings and shit. Like a scientist does, just shows up and just starts prodding and probing things with all sorts of fun devices. Silver is here for one reason and one reason only: to be very fucking horny and to fuck the shit out of somebody and render upon them childbearing potential. But Silver's run into some problems. Silver wants to have full love so that the baby doesn't turn evil. That's right, responsible horniness. Unlike so many famed characters from video games, anime, TV, real life, Silver is an ethical gooner. Rachel is a Nikomimi. You might be wondering, what the fuck is a Nikomimi? Nikomimis are those cat girls with cat ears and stuff. However, she's also able to turn into a cat. And she has finally matured a bit, because back in the first game, she was 18 and a bit of a sassy, bitchy daughter. Now, she is a mature 21-year-old that can get crunked as fuck, and also is trying to branch out in her musical career. You see, she's a former idol turned solo careerist, and she wants to do like cool experimental side stuff and find out who she really is. And who she really is probably Rachel. Instead of being the one that needs help along their journeys, she's the one that helps the others through their journeys now, especially others involved in the entertainment industry. Gala is a werewolf dilf shaped like Wolverine, but bigger, because Wolverine is in fact what the young kids call a short king. Canonically, like 5'2" or some shit. I don't know, it's because he's Canadian, but Gala doesn't seem to be Canadian and is so built like a meaty brick shit fuck wall. he is still the guy that admits people in the hospitals, and especially tries to do good work with kids, though he's big, so kids are afraid of him. He doesn't do a whole lot because his BFF is being a melodramatic bitch during the entire game, which I will never stop giving Hyde the melodramatic vampire that is totally a gayosexual shit. I will constantly just shit on this motherfucker because, man, I get it. You're a vampire. You live long as fuck. But is your entire plotline gonna be bitching and going through a midlife crisis again? It's implied he's probably centuries old. I don't even get the whole, I don't want to tell you my age. It's like, bitch, you're talking about being taught how to properly drink tea from ancient Chinese people or some shit. Dude, you're old as fuck. All he does is lay on the couch and complain. Hyde, he gives advice sometimes. It helps. He could have been a marriage counselor, but he's kind of too much of an asshole. Bailey's is still a elf, and elves are highly fuckable, though he himself is slightly less fuckable because of his slightly weirdly shaped head. And also, because, well, he's less snooty now, but he used to be pretty fucking snooty and talked shit about my latte art in the latte. Listen, I don't drink coffee. It was just hilarious that I love Coffee Talk so much. I use guides to get me through these games. I just want to hear these goofy little gay people talk about their problems. Anyway, in this game, he's still adapting to being separated from his family, which happened between the last game and this one, so within 3 years. And it's been about 2 years since my old man died, and I've been separated from my family for nearly that whole time, so Bailey's might need to get... Actually, you know what? He doesn't... His issues are more deep-rooted things that he needs to go to therapy for. I also need to go to therapy, but not because I separated from my family. Henry is a Nikomimi, and also the dad of Rachel, and he's back, and guess what? He's older than ever, because that's what happens when 3 years pass. It'll be weird if it was 3 years later, and he was somehow not older. That would be wild. Speaking of, he's apparently going to be in Coffee Talk Tokyo, and I'm excited for that. It's funny if he's the connective tissue between all these games. Maybe he's like retired by that game. I think it's like a 2 year, it's like a 2 year gap, so that would be pretty wild if he retired, but he is getting older, and I don't know, Rachel could have gone towards self-management. That would be also pretty wild. I can't wait for Coffee Talk Tokyo. But yeah, that's it for all the non-secret characters. Now we're on to the first topic of the video, issues relating to daddies. The first topic I'll be going over is that of daddyhood, or fatherhood, or just parenthood if you really want to get technical. You see, Georgie and Henry are both of the fatherly persuasion, both middle-aged men with one and or more daughters. I believe it's all daughters, if I remember right. I think Georgie is cursed with the affliction that is the pink tax, and I'm not just talking about how gays spend more money on interior decorating than most people. I'm talking about how most things that are pink and therefore classified as for girls costs, like 20 to 25% more on average, like maybe up to 40% more. I pointed this out to one of my roommates who is a woman, and she didn't know about this until she was 20 something. I don't remember how old she is, but it is something very dastardly. Anyway, these two guys go on about their relationships with their daughters throughout the entire game. It's one of their... Henry is pretty much defined by his relationship to Rachel. Georgie is probably 50% in relation to his family. He's such a dorky dad. He does like dad puns on the Tamagotchi or whatever however you say that. I don't know, it's made up. All words are made up, but that's an especially made up word from Tamagotchi, and I assume the word chill. Hendry specifically has a moment where he discusses how they are their guardians, and he is very much in understanding of what that means. That they have a duty to make sure that their children are protected and also have good lives. Something that a lot of people don't understand. That's why it's, when you're talking to a kid, it's like, where's your parent or guardian or whatever. But the thing is, right, parents should be guardians, and as I can attest to, they aren't always. My birth giver was a fucking cunt in the highest order. Hendry, however, is a... What is the inverse of a fucking cunt of the highest order? He is a wonderful lad of the lowest order. And by lowest order, I mean, we're ranking it low means good. This is golf rules. Golf rules for daddies. Daddies love he looks like he plays golf. It's disgusting that he likes golf, actually. And you know what? Doc's gives him more points. Get more your par has been lowered. You're over par, Hendry, for liking golf, you sack of fucking shit. Georgie, meanwhile, doesn't quite understand his daughter. His daughter is an artsy I don't know what age she is. I feel like she's like 12 or 4. I want to say they said the number. I can't remember it. And there's like 8 hours of footage. I don't want to pile through that. I'll just say she's like 13 or 14 or whatever. Anyway, she is super into like arts and crafts. I guess she does like little streams where she puts together like necklaces and those the bangles that go around your wrists and all that, and I guess she talks over them, so it's like, I don't know if she does like ASMR stuff or if it's like a podcast, but like the visual component is the creation of the jewelry, and then the jewelry goes to sell on Etsy. Honestly, great business plan. Her mother handles the Etsy side of things. I assume it's Etsy. I don't think they said Etsy, but like I feel like that's where it's being sold off at. Child labor laws be damned. But this daughter is more like his granddad than she is like him, in that she looks to the world and wants to see the mysterious aspects of it. The things that she can't see and touch and feel and taste, though I don't know what ghosts taste like, but she wants to experience these spectral beings. Meanwhile, Georgie is scared shitless of ghosts. He is in fact afraid of all ghosts, but also, he only really wants to interact with the world in terms of what he can see and hear with his eyes in front of him. You might be wondering, how does he hear with his eyes? Georgie's built different. He is a dad cop. That's his capo type, is dad. Georgie and Hendry both support their daughters in different ways. Georgie's kid wants to do that art stuff, but she also needs to not neglect her studies. She needs to get through high school and show that she's got the dedication, right? I can't remember who it was that I was watching. I was watching some video by somebody. It might have been one of the Greens, like the Hank or the non-Hank Green. It might have been Adam Savage, but I feel like it was somebody else. But basically, getting a degree shows that you're willing to go through the trouble of putting up with all of the bullshit that gets involved with getting the degree, right? And that's half the thing, is showing that you've got dedication. By getting the degree, it would help her. I mean, admittedly, there's a bunch of people that didn't get their degrees, and they went on to moderate to great success, but those are outliers. The capitalist system is one that's it's built for, listen, a little black girl trying to get ahead in life, man, that's not easy. A little black girl that doesn't have a diploma, even harder. He wants her to go to college, and she's like, nah, I'm just gonna skip that shit, Dad. And that's, I mean, I get it, like, right, yeah, like, especially nowadays, college, you might end up just spending money on something that doesn't really matter. Her upping her skills in the production of this jewelry, which currently seems to be just like the little beads and stuff, and twine and whatever else. Gala, I believe, is the one that mentions that she could get an apprenticeship in the same way that you do for, like, metalworking or something. And that she could learn to make jewelry with metal and stuff in it, which sells for more, so she could, like, up how much money she's making per piece of jewelry. And she can still do the streams, right, or whatever it is that she does. the little videos, like on Instagram, on the not Instagram, right, where she can make the jewelry as people watch, and it'll be really cool. That's actually really dope. Anyway, Rachel wants to make it as a solo artist, not just as she is signed on for with the company she works with, but by using her handle on Tamadachill, she would be able to make music as a separate entity however she wants, not beholden to the visuals, the visual and audio styles that is Rachel. Last name I can't remember. I think she's like legally under her government name. Under her government name, she has to perform in certain ways for this company to still like support her and pay her and all that stuff, and she doesn't break contract. Super smart of her to be like, no, Tamadachill is not under my contract. Hendry does seem to support her private endeavors, and that's fantastic. Both very good dads. 5 out of 7 perfect dads. On the other hand, right, is the real life connection to this topic, in that my old man never really understood what it was that I wanted to do with my life. I could never show him the things I wanted to write. I could never show him how I would cover games when I was trying to do some games back when I was younger. He didn't have a great sense of humor. He didn't understand how important it was to get queer voices out there. My writing is absurdist. It's similar to my humor. It's very, I guess it's like of my age group, right? Of the people that were born in like the 90s and shit. We every like 5 years we get another once in a lifetime event happening. Man, I've been through what, like 2-3 recessions now? It's great. It's being 7 being 7 when a forever war began only did great things for my generation's psychological development. It's fantastic. Apparently, when the Twin Towers got my old man ran into my uncle's room and was just shouting about how, oh, we're under attack, and my uncle was like, do I gotta get my katana? Who the fuck's attacking us? And my old man was like, no, they went after the towers. And my uncle's just like, what fucking towers? He was, late, because he wasn't single at the time, but he had much single dude energy. He was sleeping on a mattress on the floor, if I remember right. And so this dude just like shambled out of bed, trying to grab his katana, and they found out it was the Twin Towers, the World Trade Centers. The diddly darn got. And so, I don't know why I started talking about that. It's a little fun, a little fun story. And with that, the next section's gonna be on a classic American story. One that is called racism. The all-American tradition, dating back literal centuries. In fact, a large component of what America was founded on is that of racism. Now, the game doesn't really detail real-life racism, similar to a Star Trek or a insert almost any other speculative fiction sort of setting. They use non-human peoples as representatives of what humans love to do, which is discriminate against people that aren't like themselves. You got white people hating black people. You got Asians hating black people. You got a lot of people just really fucking hating black people. Which is why having Georgie as a black cop it's gotta be intentional. I could have, like, I guess should I go through almost every single ethnic group and their hatred towards other ones? Because at that point, man, this entire I could go on forever. Humanity hates its fellow humans. Man, I can't even. Anyway, Lucas is a satyr, and guess what? People don't like satyrs. They're horny. Not that, well, the people are horny. Let me specify. Humans don't like them. Well, I guess other races can also dislike them too, because Asians not liking black people is also fucking wild, like, the different flavors of it. But Lucas had to deal with anti-satyr slurs growing up, like, what was it, like, goat boy and other shit. It gives me energy of, like, calling a person from Hawaii, fucking pineapple boy. It's just slurs that are, let's see, what are this? How he's so horny, I think was another thing that they shit on him about. Because, you know, he's got horns on his head. Very lame. But then again, in real life, black people get shit on for what is sometimes having like a big flared nose or some shit, big lips. White people, of course, can't handle spicy foods, and they lust for mayonnaise almost as much as they lust for spices that they then turn around and don't even use. Oh wait, that's more specifically the British. But even amongst his own peers, he found that it was not easy to get into the industry as a non-human. You see, some of his peers weren't also human. Some of the pictures we saw were like, one was like a golem, I believe, a rock dude, it looked like. I can't remember what the other ones looked like, but that was the one that stood out. Because, like, a golem, like an 8-foot-tall dude made of, the Thing from the Fantastic Four is like the standout individual. Like, everybody else had fairly cool powers, like bursting into flames. I don't know if that hurts Johnny Storm, right? And then Susan Storm, and then Reed Richards. Ben Garrison? Is that the thing? I can't remember. I think it's Ben. Is it Garrison? Might be getting mixed up with somebody else. Lucas had a rough time breaking into the industry of pranks and all the other bullshit that young YouTubers do. And then on the other hand, we have Riona, who has had to deal with racism because she's a banshee. And as I described before, they're semi-corporeal beings that scream a lot. They might be able to turn the lights off. They're kind of spooky looking, but like, she's like, oh man, she's cute. Like, I can't lie. She's just a cutie. I mean, man, if I was a customer and I got into her back seat and I saw her cute face and her eyes that don't, I don't know the human biology of eyes at the moment. It's like the sclera and shit. Her eyes are like all the same color, except you can also kind of see pupils. I think also sometimes they become one like whole color depending upon the angle that she's at. If she's looking to the side or something. I've noticed that sometimes, like, her eye, it just looks the same. Yeah, customers would quit out on her upon getting into her back seat. Because she's an Gruber or whatever, but she switched from delivering people to delivering food and stuff. And she wants to get into singing. Specifically, she wants to get into soprano, because that's what Banshees, actually, yeah, I don't really get that. It's not really, she feels like she has to be a soprano because that's what they do, but then, like, I don't know how this interacts with the glass ceiling. Like, girl, you could have, I don't know, you could have stood out by having a focusing on different vocal aspects, but she was like, I need to stand out in the field amongst other banshees. I need to be the bansheeest banshee that can banshee. And I'm like, I don't know, I feel like that's digging into racial stereotypes. I feel like you could do more. Rachel, she was a Nico Mimi, as I've explained, like, I think like 3 times already in this video. A kitty person, and they're stereotyped as just cute and weak, not being able to handle the strenuous activities like lifting a chair, or making your own fucking coffee. Shit like that. But she showed that not only is she cute, but she's also not weak. So, while half the stereotype, it's kind of like, I'm trying to say it in a way that doesn't come off poorly, but it's sort of like, if you took real life races and we're like, okay, which of these fantasy races does this translate most to? Besides the fact that I think she's also just straight up Asian, as in her family comes from Asia, I believe. It feels like stereotypes of Asians, right? And that some of the stereotypes are things that could be seen as positive, like, oh, good at math or studious. She's cute, right? But the cuteness shouldn't define who she is, right? It's her tenacity. It's her nepotism by having a dad that's in the industry. That's right. Rachel's a nepo baby. And that matters more than being a kitty person. You know what? That's actually a great point. Her dad got into the industry as a non-performer, not being cute. I don't know, maybe he was a twink when he was younger, but he's a middle-aged man now. Kind of like how, yeah, it goes back to Riona. And how Riona could totally just do something other than being a soprano. It just goes back to, like, man, you can break out of the glass ceiling by going adjacent and finding a weaker point. Actually, where does I'd have to look into sometime. Glass ceiling implies that you can just shatter through it, but it's often used as like you can only go up that high. Is the glass part like you can see through it? I've heard people shattering the glass ceiling, right? But yeah, I feel like it's not a great turn of phrase. But Rachel, right? Her complaints are also not that impressive. Because really, she's a nepo baby, and it was easier for her to get into everything she did. However, her former teammates were kind of shitty, and they thought that she would be a weak link. I vaguely thought they were also kitty people, but I guess they were humans, or an elf, or whatever. Because if she's weak, her endurance isn't very high, and idols, with their dancing, and their singing, and their sexual harassment going on, even dating back to when she was a teenager, I assume. The industry is rife with that shit. Man, if I play Yakuza and get to Yakuza... I'll play the Yakuza games, but if I play through... If I go through the Yakuza games and get to Yakuza 5, and then I don't skip 3 through 5, I gotta play as Haruka and deal with the awful things of the idol industry. And oh boy, I'm not waiting for that. But Rachel showed her teammates. She danced the dances. She sang the songs. And apparently she didn't face any sexual harassment until she became 18, and then fucking... What was his name? Like, Morris Lester, the manager? She was like, oh yeah, that's like cash money right there, that name. That's the good shit, daddy. And her dad was like, no, don't work for Morris Lester. There's rumors about Morris Lester. Mr. Lester, and the things that he lusts upon. Rachel ended up showing brightly as the greatest star amongst those idols, because she went off and did her solo career, and I don't remember if it's mentioned if the other girls went off and, became solo artists. I think there was talk of them doing a reunite, uniting again to do a tour or whatever. But that's bringing in the big star known as Rachel. Rachel last name, Furlong? Now I think about it, it's like Furlong? It's like a fur pun. It's this game. It's so touching. In an appropriate way, I might add. And not inappropriately touching, like some games can be. Eventually, Lucas and Riona do team up to do a podcast, where they showcase artists that are small and might be facing racism as an obstruction towards their success. Their first guest being Rachel herself. And it's very charming. As their endings play through, you see that in her default ending, Riona's just kind of like glum and shit. And then if it's her and Lucas, she's teaching him how to drive, and there's like a small, like almost like a smirk. But then if Rachel is also there in the backseat, it's a full-on smile, and they're all having a great time. And just it's all super touching and approaching racism by talking about the issues at hand, and having such a good big star at the start. It's you lift each other up and defeat racism, just kneecap racism, and then take it back to the shed and unload 2 rounds in the back of its head. Just like Old Yeller. We got Old Yeller racism. That's right, America. We have to treat Old Yeller, we have to treat racism like we treat our old, decrepit, rabies-infested dogs. We must unload buckshot into its skull. I myself did not face too much racism growing up, because I'm cracker passing, but some classmate who kept insisting that he's Irish despite the fact that his family's been in America for, I want to say, over 100 years, and the fact that he's not 100% Irish, but he was Catholic, he was Irish Catholic. He was a little cunt, he was a nerd, he loved math. Fuck him and his numbers. fuck him, and he was an alcoholic. He was an alcoholic when he was in grade 12. That motherfucker would show up drunk as shit on vodka and just be a fucking asshole. His dad, curse him. His dad was a cunt too. The old man would deliver their newspaper because that's what he did for a living. And that dumb fucking bitch, that senile old fart, would complain that the newspaper was folded. Guess what? It needs to be folded to fit in your fucking newspaper hole. And he would complain that if it keeps up, he's going to iron the newspaper until it's flat. You know what happens when you iron a newspaper like that? The ink melts and shit. This dude would get day drunk and end up in their cornfields. This motherfucker. This Irish little bitch. The one that I went to school with, not the dad. I assume the dad's dead by now, hopefully. Fingers crossed, little cunt. He remained an alcoholic. He was driving for Pepsi, last I heard. He might end up, hopefully he doesn't drink and drive, though he probably does. He's a little fucker like that. But hopefully he doesn't drink and drive. But hopefully also he gets caught doing something bad, because he's a little bitch that I didn't expect to just spew so much vitriol towards some fucking red-headed little cunt. But listen, that's where we're at. Oh, and also, in case you're worried that I'm discriminatory against the Irish, I get to be, because I'm also Irish. It's called having privileges. Oh wait, I should probably introduce the next section. It's the entertainment industry. That's right. We're diving deep into it, deeper than ever before. We're going balls deep into the entertainment industry. The entertainment industry, the powerhouse that influences your thoughts and desires in the modern era. This is not me reading off a script. This is me just putting on my radio voice, because, oh boy, it's one of those things that can just make me ramble for 10 to 15 minutes at a time, which I might end up doing, because this section is a little... I do have some notes, though. I'm about to begin reading some of those notes off, but it's more of like... it's more info, like... Lucas, the first character I'll be talking about. I'm pretty much covering all the characters I already covered, because there's a lot of overlap between racism and the entertainment industry. Wowzers, it's almost like in real life, the entertainment industry also has issues with racism. Oh, boy. But yeah, Lucas's time in the industry began back when he was living with a bunch of douchebags in a place called the Pro House, I believe. A bunch of real buffoons committing acts of buffoonery for YouTube. I don't know if they clarified it was YouTube, but it's YouTube. We all know it's YouTube. It's YouTube, where it's just a prank bro. Pranks including things like telling Lucas that he doesn't get to come back home and sleep unless he brings back a girl, or he gets rejected so horribly that I think he gets slapped in the face. Something like that. Something awful. I don't know if it's ever implied that he would bring back guys as well. So, not only were they were racist, probably also homophobic as well. It makes sense though. A lot of YouTubers are not great people. He was taken advantage of, his race being part of the joke along the way, as I said before. He, even, like, jokingly, and this is the shitty kind of jokingly, they'd also be like, goat boy, little Billy boy, or other dumb shit. Eventually, though, this culminated in an event that caused him to one day fear driving on his own, and also the dark. Because it involved driving on his own, and also the dark. But if the fact that it involved a fake racist gang would make you also think that he would also fear racist gangs, or at least big pieces of wood. Kind of like how my great uncle, he was afraid of black people since when did Vietnam end? Because in Vietnam, right, he didn't actively shoot anybody or anything. He went through basic and all that. Once he graduated, he went to a little bar that was for officers and stuff, but he didn't realize it was only for the officers. And the officers didn't give a shit that he and his buddy were drinking there, but the bartender did. And the bartender was a young black private who took issue with this fucking quarter native 75% white, some shit like that. I don't know how native my great uncle is, but anyway, he tracked my great uncle down after he fucked off from the bar, and tracked him down to his bunk, where he proceeded to use I assume a 2x4 with a bunch of nails in it to try to kill my uncle for the crime of drinking alcohol in a bar. And so because of that, my great uncle feared large pieces of wood with nails in them, but also just large pieces of wood, but also black people, since I assume the 70s. And he only ever got over it when the family reunion started becoming less white, because some of our distant cousins or whatever had black spouses and significant others and shit like that. And eventually he came to fear black people less. So his... What's the racist version of homophobia? What is the... Not quite xenophobe. Would xenophobia cover that? Anyway, it's the phobia in the sense that he didn't hate black people. He feared them. And that, well, I guess if you fear something enough, you can hate them. Anyway, Lucas, his roommates decided that a cool prank, bro, would be to have him drive his car out to, like, the middle of nowhere, basically, some, like, off streets where there's not a whole lot there. If this translated to places in LA, it might have been up in, not Beverly Hills, but, like, I think it's called The Hills. They've become richer since it was referenced in the one song by the one band that I can't, I'll put it up on screen. You know what? I'll put the name of the thing on screen. Future editor me can go and find the song Counting Crows. That's it. That's the band. It's been a long December, and there's reason to believe. But this is not the place where I'm going to be bursting in the song for this. In fact, and I'm sorry that you thought that was the musical segment for this. This episode. That is not this video. I'm not gonna be singing the entire song. I could, in fact, sing the entire song. I don't know yet. But anyway, they had him drive off to some shithole, and the car was programmed or was set up to stop working on a street, no lights, no nothing. I think the car died, so he's in pitch black. And then his roommates showed up in a car, like, off in the distance, and started walking towards him and started just hurling racist slurs at him with baseball bats and other wooden implements of pain and suffering. But yeah, upon him being like, yo, that's, like, not cool and shit, they were just trying to be like, oh, it's a prank, bro. It's a prank that we were gonna pretend to lynch you. And so that's what eventually made him split off from them, because he finally had his meltdown, and he finally told them to go fuck themselves. And it sounds like after he left, because he was one of the dudes that helped make the group function, in that he was like a mediator, he and his posse left to go and form his channel, and it sounds like all the former teammates are a bunch of just bitter cunts now, who just treat each other horribly, just awful, just scum of the earth. I hope a meteorite hits their house and they all explode. Just horrifically. I hope that he gets a Tomodachi notification that his former roommates got hit by a meteorite. Just exploded beyond all recognition. Their charred corpses were launched into the stratosphere and atomized, just turned into dust. Just the most visceral, like, it was all on screen. It was all captured on screen. Just the most fantastical of deaths for these awful dudes. But now, because he's running his own stuff, he's got a team, he's got dudes, they have kids and shit, so he's got to make sure his channel is profitable. So he's got to balance his life with making his channel profitable, but also allowing him to pursue his own artistic endeavors, which, going back to the previous section, is the thing with the podcast and shit. He's been wanting to do a podcast, finally settled on showcasing talent, and how racism is, in fact, not cool, bro. Riona wants to get into the entertainment industry as a soprano. I've already talked about that. She wants to be the most soprano-ass soprano in existence. But she wants to do it the old-fashioned way, which is, I don't know, handing people your fucking business card, I guess. It's not really... there's a lot of double standards she keeps bringing up, like, she's just involved in. I don't get it. And eventually she realizes, oh, racism is a thing. I've been naive in my behavior, and she just realizes that racism, in fact, can get between you and your full potential. And Rachel is a great example of how somebody looked at racism and said no, and then was badass. And seeing this unfairness is what drove her to join the podcast as his co-host. I hope that she actually gets paid, though. It's not implied that she actually gets paid. I don't know if she would get paid as part of the residuals of the episode, of YouTube payments, or if she's getting paid for her time. At the very least, they should be paying her as much as she'd be making from the deliveries. Because, guess what, bitch? This ain't delivery anymore. This is DiGiorno. Rachel, I've already covered. The last section, I kind of just ran over most of this info already, so I'll just skip through it pretty quickly. She wants to do her side project with some dude made of rocks. Lo-fi beats and stuff. I guess she's not doing vocals or something. She helps out the other two, and she's boosting up their recognition. She's helping out in a country that is hell-bent on othering others that are not of the majority. Being that if you're not a cracker, if you're not straight, if you're not Christian, if you're not some other shit that I can't remember at the top of my head, right, is you're generally at a debuff in life, right? You have like -5 to potentially -95 to your ability to be seen as even just a human being, right? If you're a black kid in a wheelchair, and like I don't know, man, you're also deaf or something, that's a lot of debuffs in America. People will hate the shit out of you. Hendry has been involved in industry for decades, only recently getting back into it directly, in order to help his daughter avoid the worst excesses present in the hellscape that is the entertainment industry. Not just Seattle, just all of the entertainment industry is a hellscape. The Me Too movement helps show that, yeah, in fact, most people in positions of power abuse that power. It is awful. His age, though, is catching up to him, because he's old. He's 50-something. His body is crumbling. I think the Nekomimis don't live as long as humans, so if, I don't know, like 50 in human years, but like something else in kitty years? I don't know how that works. The distribution methods, though, are changing for the industry, and he's doing his best to keep caught up, but the industry is cutthroat. This also goes back to Riona and the whole, oh, she wants to do things old-fashioned. The distribution methods of, like, she could do it all digitally, right? She could just put her stuff up and out. There's a cute little animatic type of thing they put out like 11 months ago, where the trio are in a podcast, and it said that Riona is going through vocal classes, finally, being taught professionally. They even dragged in Lucas to go along with it. For fun, I guess. But yeah, I guess that really closes out the section on entertainment. Next up is a section on a word that I had to look up, because I was like, what's the inverse of parenthood? Well, some would say childhood, but childhood is generally like you as a youngling. But what is it called when you're the child of somebody, but you're an adult, and it's your connection with your parent into adulthood? And it turns out it's an archaic word, and I love archaic words. It's called childship. The next section is on childship. We're gonna have a whole lot of fun because of horrific daddy issues and everything else. Mommy issues, a lot of issues. Lucas's relationship with his parents have elements that remind me of my real life shit that I have dealt with, though mirrored in a way. His dad was the major disappointment, while my birth giver was the ultimate fuck-up between my old man and her. Dude was a party cunt, his dad, going around knocking dumb bitches up. Meanwhile, my birth giver was a dumb party cunt who'd go around fucking for drugs and money. My old man was more of just a general disappointment. He was difficult to involve in things because he was either ill-educated, like he chose to not educate himself on several matters. Just very, not quite redneck, but very much white trash. I couldn't involve him in most of the things in my life. And, like, to the point where he didn't even know I wasn't straight, right? You'll think a trans man who was most likely bisexual wouldn't take issue with that. But several times I saw that he probably would have taken issue with that. And so I never brought it up. But in the end, Lucas, when his dad died, was given the ownership of the family home, right? And despite his older siblings wanting him to sell it so that they could split the money, he kept it so that he and his ma and the younger siblings had a place to live. The family didn't really have much in the way of other belongings, so this was one of the small kindnesses his father bequeathed to them. Since they rarely saw the man, he would show up and then give some money, but it was barely enough to cover the utilities for a few months. He was a deadbeat for the most part. And the older siblings didn't give a shit about the younger siblings, but thankfully, Lucas is a sweet boy, right? And save for him, the family's fairly weak as a cohesive unit. But he ensured that strength could be built upon in the family by ensuring that through his work in the entertainment industry, he could keep the family financed, which would allow the mom to take care of the younger siblings, and the younger siblings could potentially go on to do other things with their lives, right? Things that are beyond what would be permitted for those in their economic class as well as their racial background. Ultimately, he is a good son. Riona's relationship with her mother, and by extension the commune that they come from, while not bad, are a bit strained. She wanted to get away from it, the commune, and be more individualistic. I can't quite remember her explanations beyond... Actually, I don't remember her explanations. I get wanting to go out and do stuff on your own, though. So maybe she's just more... She is a shy girl, right? And I don't know how Banshee society functions. They operate in communes for racial protection purposes, similar to how a lot of street gangs function in America. Like the... I want to say... Was it the Bloods that formed first? The Bloods or the Crips formed first to protect themselves against Hispanic street gangs, I believe. And then the other street gang formed, I want to say, in because the first street gang started doing shit that people didn't like. Fun stuff. But the communes aren't afflicted by the issues that capitalism brings with those in the inner city, in that the commune is based around self-governance, self-sufficiency, growing their own crops, mending their own clothing, stuff like that, ensuring that they are disconnected from the systems at play that would leave them downtrodden, right? And so, while we don't know the quality of life within the commune for the Banshees, and it sounds like there's a system of communes, which is an optimal way to run them across the different members of the group. So for Banshees, it might be like there's one commune per state, or per county even, if it's a more rural area, which it likely is in a rural area, land being easier to acquire, and it's easier to, if to start a farm there. The issues that being in an urban environment, in which the only economic system that you're dealing with is capitalist in nature, the issues that arise is that it very much drives you into suffering as individuals instead of banding together and working as a community, which is what communes are about. It's similar root words. It's communal living. So similar to the hippie communes of the 60s and 70s, and still some of them still exist. A lot of them have died out either due to infighting or whatever else. But that's basically any other group, right? So it weakens it weakens individuals, especially those that are minorities, which leads to further poverty, which causes generational poverty, the prevention of the acquisition of generational wealth. So you just see every single generation being stuck in the ghetto, basically. There's your little socio-political explanation of communes and the like. So have fun with that, I guess. She saw that her mother was stressed out from her role in the commune. Now, the explanation of the commune, I don't know if the developers know much about how communes actually function, because generally speaking, your private goods, or your personal items and stuff, like your clothing and all that stuff, your toothbrushes and all that shit, you deal with that yourself, right? You do your own laundry. Though, depending on how the system is, it sounds like it might be they're not using electricity to do the laundry and stuff, because they mentioned that somebody does the laundry. Which, if it's all by hand, that's more Amish-like stuff, sort of thing. They never really go into how it's organized. It might be shitty religious stuff like a lot of the Amish stuff is, but it's like each individual member of the commune had a different role, which if there's enough people and enough overlap, you generally want to ensure that there's skill crossover. So if somebody leaves or somebody dies, you're not suffering from that. They do mention that there's like apprentices and stuff like that for the different roles. But yeah, for stuff that's like clothing and stuff, generally you do your own clothing. It's not like other people, there's one person that handles that or two people that handle that. And then the day-to-day maintenance of a place, that's generally divided up into chores. That's given to people on a weekly basis or whatever. You might flip-flop on who does what. It helps make sure that the monotony doesn't get to you. But you'd still have individuals that their strengths and their skills are what make up their day jobs, basically, besides their chores. Riona's mother's day job is that of trader, in that she would go out of town and then handle any trades between the other communes, different cities, different towns, stuff like that. But because she was dealing with racism, because it's America and she was being racismed at, it wore her down over time. Just years and years of it. Potentially decades. It doesn't really say. I don't know how old Riona is. I think she's like 23 or some shit. But she wants the best for her mother. She loves her mother. She's not a bad daughter. She's just in a bad situation, in that she wanted to be on her own, but her mother is left behind having to deal with this position that really should be, as I said, you shouldn't have it all depend on one person. It should be swapping it out week by week, or like if her mom, Cobains herself, for lack of a better word, they're out a skilled negotiator. Her skills should be cross-trained between somebody else that can keep up with the work. Ultimately, Riona's a good daughter. She's a good girl. Next on the list, also a pretty good girl. Far better than she was before, though, because Rachel used to be kind of a shithead back when she was 18. She had to be taught that a dude named Mo Lester might not be the best dude to work for. She is 21, but she's currently living with her dad still because she's noticed that he's getting older. He's getting more forgetful. Probably needs help around the house. She's a good daughter. They help each other. He's her manager. They have a loving relationship. They appreciate the fuck out of each other. Her mom died, I want to say of like cancer or something, when she was fairly young, because the mom would be the mediator between her and her dad. And that was the issues that were cropping up in the previous game, right? Was that the mom wasn't there, so the two of them needed to work together. And here's the thing, right? Rachel understood that her dad should have better words for how to speak to her. I'm trying to find a way to word it, right? But basically, she was like, I know what you're trying to do, Dad, but you need to do better. You need to explain things better to me. And that's a thing that, like, a lot of, like, people try to say that, like, teenagers are pissy and shitty and all that shit. Right. When I was 16, my old man got fuck life tattooed on his knuckles, and I tried explaining to him that that's bad. That's not a good idea. That makes you fairly unemployable, right? And that's the kind of thing that I should have been doing as a 16-year-old, and he was doing as a, let's see, 37 or so year old. He was 20 or so, 23, so he was 39, I believe. So he was 39 when he got fuck life tattooed on his knuckles. He was just always an edgy little cunt. But yeah, it's sometimes teenagers are in fact correct, and that parents do need to speak to them better. But also, yeah, maybe don't work for a dude named Mo Lester. Fucking Morris Lester. Despite her previous hang-ups, good daughter. 5 out of 7. Perfect daughter. Perfect daughter. Bailey's first dude on the list. He, like me, cut contact with his family. Specifically, he cut contact with his parents. He cut contact with all of his family. Because there were a bunch of cunts that didn't want him to get married, or at least even into a relationship with Lua. I wanted to focus instead on his relationship with his great-great-aunt, since his stuff and connection to his parents is better suited for later on. She was the only family member that really saw him and understood the pain that he was going through. His parents were catty, bitchy elves that fought all the time. Just really British type shit. Just British coded. Just the scum of the earth. Fucking, I bet they played golf. Rich fucking cunts. Married because their families wanted it to happen. She would give him tea and other such cool things that the player character gives him, and he's like, oh, it reminds me of grandmama, of great-great-aunt. She was a great woman, but she died horribly because the way that elves handle their dying is to basically be like, that's not happening. And so she was in a room dying from, I don't know, turbo fucking nature cancer. Cancer of the third the third circle. She was just wasting away and dying. And he had to watch that happen when no one else would comfort her. And she tried to put on a brave face for him, but he could see. Bailey's was never a bad son. His parents were shitty people. And with that is the section on Childship. And next up is going to be probably one of the longest sections, right? Is that, I mean, it's a fundamental issue. Hedgehog dilemma themed relationships. Communication in relationships, and how we fumble the balls and how we talk to each other when their balls are outside of our mouths. Communication in relationships is something that we as people have not been able to master, despite civilization existing for, what do they estimate it to be, like 4,000, 5,000 years or so. So when it comes to exploring this topic in video games and the like, it's always interesting to see how these problems manifest over and over again. For example, with Myrtle, she faces the issue of being the more savvy or knowledgeable member in a coupling where the other member is more naive and doesn't quite understand the intricacies of what they're getting involved in. I honestly don't think she fucked up that bad in terms of how she handled things. It's more so her tone and the way she handled the entire situation. But the vibes are that she just might be really tired from having to explain herself over and over again. But she is a butch bitch and might have never tried to be more gentle about it in the first place. She has habitually just seemed sort of... People say, oh, maybe Aqua is getting with her because she can be open with Myrtle. But it's just like, Myrtle always gives off this... I don't know how to explain it, right? It seems... I don't know if Myrtle has like two writers. The one who's there for like Myrtle Grunt mode, where it's just like, she's just being grumpy. And then you see her like Tamagotchi, I don't know what their posts are called, their equivalent of tweets or whatever, but she's more whimsical there, though she's sometimes still a little bit of a grumpy puss. But Yeah, she kind of reminds me of myself with nearly any person that I've ever dealt with personally. Because, man, if people had listened to me and didn't keep fucking up, more of my family members would still be alive. And then people in my private life still to this day. It's just like nearly everybody I know, I keep saying the same. It's like almost the same person over and over again, making the same mistakes over and over again. It gets tiring. It was tiring a decade ago when I was 21. Man, I'm not built. I'm the infernal engine. I can't stop myself. I can't remember the rest of the quote. On to the other half of that pairing, which I hope they are together. It would be kind of weird if they weren't, with how touchy and stuff they seem to be. I don't know. It's very lesbian-y, very lesbonic in Aqua, the other gal, her desire to work with the publisher she loves so much, it blinds her to the shortfalls of the contract that she's trying to sign into. It's a real deal with the devil. And it's the devil that she kind of knows through the games that she plays, but that's like trying to sign on with the Weinstein Company because you like some of Kevin Smith's films. And oh boy, 15 years ago, I've heard that people knew about Weinstein all along, and they just kind of let it slide. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds about right. Like I've said, the entertainment industry, fucking deplorable. But, thankfully, eventually, Aqua does in fact realize that, oh, Myrtle is completely correct, and that she would have lost her creation and the money that came along with it if she had signed on. Because the deal was basically, if she can't make it in time, or if she doesn't agree to the changes that the company, the publishers, want to force on her, she has to pay back all the money, and they get the creative rights to it. And as Myrtle said, they're likely to just cannibalize the game by taking out what they like about it and then scrapping the rest of it. But this all ties more into the section on worker exploitation, so I'll leave this here. We're on to another couple, another power couple. That's right, we're on to a banker and a twink. First up, the banker, Lua, is another example where I stayed with the more traditionally masculine individual, which is saying something because Bailey's might be less masked than Link the Twink from Breath of the Wild. If you can't tell, I pre-wrote that. I can't make, well, I can sometimes make jokes that good on the spot, but I was just thinking, and I was like, man, how do I make a joke about Link being the fuckable twink that he is? And I had to do it. I had to do it to him. Now, Lua's issue, right, is that she doesn't communicate her desires properly, and most of all, she just keeps doing the sort of shit you'd expect out of a passive-aggressive woman. Okay, so I don't use Instagram or any of that stuff, but if I had a partner and they were going through and liking and sharing shit that was in relation to something that they wanted, I would be like, oh, surely this is the stuff that they want. But she's quite literally just sending every wrong fucking signal, because she keeps liking and sharing expensive wedding shit when they're supposed to be getting married, and I guess deep down she's like, well, I don't need it to be big and expensive. But you should have fucking said that, Lua. I don't think at any point she even, like, hinted towards that. She's just kind of like... Eventually, though, she's, yeah, she fucked up, and she's sending, these signals to somebody that is struggling with the gender norms of, oh, the guy is supposed to help take care of the wedding. Though I've also heard some traditions are like the wife's, the bride's family is supposed to take care of the wedding. And, like, I guess I can, it's my channel, I can say whatever the fuck I want, right? I feel like the guests should, contribute to the wedding. And the fact that if everybody pitches in, like, here's the thing, right? You go to a party, right? And sometimes parties cost money, like $10, $20. Or you go to, like, a club or whatever. If like 100 people pitch in $20, that's $2,000 that can be spent on crunk sauce and other such things that people enjoy at the wedding festivities. and of course, more people could pitch in more than just $20. I mean, it's a big party, right? Everybody puts in $50. That's $5,000. You could have a bouncy castle. You could have a laser tag. You could have all kinds of fun stuff for $5,000, man. You could buy the bouncy castle at that point. But anyway, eventually, they get their shit together. But I'd say that she's more in the wrong from all those signals. Get your shit together, Lua. Bailey's, on the other hand, wants to fund this big wedding as much as he can, because he sees the signals she's sending, and, while perceptive, can't operate off of a lack of info. Yeah, like, if somebody's... if it's like wearing a shirt that says, man, I really wish I had a cat right now, and then they consistently wear different shirts that say the exact same thing, and they keep talking about how they would enjoy a cat. And then you're like, man, I should get this motherfucker a cat. And then you bring it up to them, they're like, no, I don't need a cat, it's fine. It's fine. Which is the fucking worst. I hate it when people... It's fine. I hate that shit. His hangups are more understandable to me as somebody who's been stuck in not dissimilar situations. Eventually, he's fine with becoming a house spouse, which honestly isn't that bad. He can still be creative while working from home, while his banker wife brings in the cash. Yeah, like, man, if you can be... Dude, if I... Oh... shack up with somebody that just rakes in $80,000 a year, and you could just like write books while you take care of a baby or whatever. Even better if you're a dink couple, dual income, no kids, like the Dinkelbergs from the Fairly Odd Parents. That's why Timmy's dad doesn't like Dinkelberg. In its root core is that Dinkelberg has no kids and some monies. Timmy's dad has no monies and a kid. So, Timmy's dad, I don't know if he has a name, is jealous of the Dinkelbergs. I can't recall if the game touches on it, but part of it could be proving his worth to her family, another issue that men face, especially so when they come from a family that is big on appearances. Like, his family were a bunch of rich twats, and so to him, it might be seen as he can only be accepted by her family by fulfilling the role of a man in a relationship, in that what society expects from men. But it's also a thing of like what different social groups expect from men in wedding and in marriages, I mean. Moving on though, we've got Hyde, who in my notes I've used some words I don't think YouTube wants me to use, but Hyde is an overdramatic word I'm not going to say for YouTube, stuck with ennui. Ennui is, I assume, a French word for bitchy little shit that lays on their couch all day and whines and moans. It's the shit that elves and shit get where they're like, oh, I'm so long-lived, and it's like, bitch, eat some fucking ass. Which, altogether, happens to a lot of long-lived twinks. I cannot relate because he's rich as fuck and should know better. It takes the people around him needing some of his bluntness and reminding him of what he wants out of life for him to find out what he needs. And you know what this boy needs? This boy needs some good old-fashioned photography. That's right. 13th midlife crisis? Just get into photography, you fucking little guy, little twink, little ancient twink. Fucking probably had sex with Gala's granddad. But he does remind me of me in a few ways with his dips into nihilism. However, I'm an existentialist that can find joy in life more easily. This motherfucker bitches about losing people. I've lost nearly all of my family. Speaking of his werewolf service top, Gala doesn't do much in this game, but he's there to be Hyde's passive, not boyfriend, and help him deal with his bitching and whining. They'd better be fucking, because Gala has bridal carried Hyde more than once. You know, I gotta say at least once though, because it's only stated that happened once, but I feel like if Gala's taken half-naked Hyde out of a car and then bridal carried him once. He's probably done not dissimilar things before. He probably carried him the bridal style. I don't see him carrying Hyde, the fragile being that Hyde is, to bed, fireman style. I know Hyde says that not every vampire knows kung fu, but eventually, dude, it's just like, I don't know, maybe take up, personal defense training. You've been alive for so long. Why not learn kung fu? Man, you could have gotten so many black belts. I just did a pose. You can't see me. Communication is something that I have worked on for the last 15 years or so. I've kept a lot of people out of early graves. I've been there for them in ways that most people won't. All they had to do was reach out and touch faith. Your own personal Jesus. Someone to hear your prayers. Someone who cares. Your own personal Jesus. Someone to hear your prayers. Someone who's there. Feeling unknown and you're all alone. Flesh and bone by the telephone. Lift up the receiver, I'll make you a believer. Take second best, put me to the test. Things on your chest you need to confess. I will deliver, you know I'm a forgiver. Reach out and touch faith. Reach out and touch faith. Your own personal Jesus. Someone to heal your prayers. Someone who cares. Your own personal Jesus. Someone to hear your prayers. Someone who's there. Feeling unknown and you're all alone. Flesh and bone by the telephone. Lift up the receiver, I'll make you a believer. I will deliver, you know I'm a forgiver. Reach out and touch faith. Your own personal Jesus. Reach out and touch faith. 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 Reach out. Reach out. Reach out and touch faith. After that fun romp with a song cover, let's go on to worker exploitation, everybody's favorite topic to hear about when they're watching an analysis video about an indie little game. I was gonna say RPG. It's not really an RPG unless you consider role playing to be making bad drinks and then making people's weddings get postponed, and also in the previous game making somebody end up becoming a paraplegic. That's right. Hendry got in the previous game in a bad timeline. Thankfully, I didn't experience that timeline. I actually got, I think I got the best ending I could in my first run of the previous game, and then I had to go back for the side shit, like to get the secret ending. But that's stuff that like no reasonable human being could ever find on their own. Like it's the stuff that like you gotta be a turbo nerd. You gotta listen. Yeah, you gotta have some spectrum powers within you, and I'm not talking about charter. Anyway, first up on the list of workers that have been exploited, it's our buddy boy Lucas. He was exploited during his time at the Pro House that he used to live at. He'd be forced into roles that were outside of his comfort zone, but since he was a more junior member of the group, he put trust into the judgment of his more senior peers. Classic mistake. Never trust a hierarchy. Because of this, he was placed into hostile situations, forced to behave in a manner that was unethical and was exploited, using both personal and professional means. This poor little dude he went around pranking, he went around trying to get booty in ways that are inappropriate for anybody to behave. And these dudes, they acted like older brothers. You know what? It makes perfect. I didn't even make the connection till now. He believed them because his own older siblings were bad people, and so he was like, "Oh, I need the good influence in my life." He also didn't have a good dad influence either. His dad was going around getting his dick the wettest he could, just spreading his seed far and wide. So he looked up to these dudes. Yeah, I'm just realizing this now. Man, it makes so much. The psychology of Lucas. He's so adorable. I don't care if his legs are made of goats. Next up we got Myrtle, who is stuck in the fucking Call of Duty mines and has been for a while now. I assume that's what the game that she develops is like based on. She knows all too well how overworked game devs can get. Crunch time is just the most well-known method of overworking your workers in the gaming industry, but there's tons of other abuses that happen as well. I've heard of reports of some game devs being locked in the studio and being forced to finish games. It's not great. Now that I think, this is just me being like, what is it, like, the writer of Do Not Create the Torment Nexus has had to make a statement that you really shouldn't have made the Torment Nexus or some shit like that. My brain is like, oh, it could be worse. There's already sweatshops. Surely you could train sweatshop workers to do Code Monkey type shit. Have them all working at cubicles for 16 hours a day. Just like, man, it's awful. I feel like people would do that. There's gotta be, right? There's gotta be some third world ass fucking the American studios being like, yes, pay these Chinese children to code these games for us. Yes, shovelware for the iPhone. Yes, and then American children will take their parents' credit cards and use them to make us millions, billions even, and we just gotta pay these little Chinese kids pennies on the dollar. And then they whip them. Like Beyonce does to her sweatshop workers. That's right. I don't like Beyonce. I don't like any billionaires. I don't like these fucking cunts. These goddamn vultures. These leeches upon humanity. And in this setting, leeches upon all of persondom. All people. I don't know what the group name for humanoids is in the Coffee Talk universe. But man, the billionaires there are probably milking the shit out of them, and I'm not talking about in a fun dick milking kind of way, or in just a fun titty milking kind of way. Back on topic, she tries to impart this knowledge into Aqua, but Aqua is too much of a fangirl to understand it right away. Aqua almost gets stuck into a contract that would have likely ended up with her game, ended up getting taken apart piece by piece. The good bits being, well, more like the stuff that's profitable for the industry. When I say good, I mean good for the company. and she would have lost all of her baby. They would have taken her baby apart and saved the lungs or something to attach to, I don't know, some shitty sports game that gets released once a year with barely any changes to it. But you know your cousin Jeff or Eduardo. There's no in between. It's Jeff or Eduardo. Both of them are buying FIFA 2027. Because, yeah, don't they release the game, like, they release a year ahead, like, with cars, they do that sometimes? Man, I gotta get through all of this, because I might have strep throat. I might be infected with the throat of my strepped up throats. So I gotta get all this voice acting done as fast as possible. I'm a little feral right now. I might eat a potato in a bit. Oh, but yes, the company tried to act like they were doing her a favor, but instead, they were just a bunch of greedy gaggle of cunts. And that's it for worker exploitation. To keep watching this video to watch the section on Advocacy / the aiding of others. This category was hard to name for me, because there are no good words for what I was meaning to convey in relation to all that it includes. Like the Archdeacon from the Hunchback of Notre Dame, there are those that seek the protection and well-being of the downtrodden. Advocacy is aiding others, right? Is helping others through acting on their behalf. Right. But at the same time, one of the biggest examples, Silver, is helping others that are basically themselves, right? So I couldn't find a good word for it, because at the same time, there are those that help that are more akin to those that helped ensure that Jews survived the Holocaust, right? And then I tried to look into a word that covers that, and there's no real good words that aren't in Hebrew and such, and that isn't universally applicable for the other characters. So I just ended up going with advocacy or aiding others. Georgie is a lighter example of this theme, in that his advocacy sees the dead tended to, when no others in a position of authority were trying to maintain a tradition older than even he is. His work sees that dead fey creatures remembered, as their remains were desecrated along the way. You can see him leaving flowers in his ending slides, whether he resolves the core issue with the help of others or not. Be it with the help of the city, thus ensuring, or actually no, it's more social pressure that is organized through Lucas and Riona. Through them, he's able to help make sure that people tend to the area that the person died in. But if it's just him working on his own, you still see him bringing the flowers in. However, if things worsen in the area and you give the wrong drinks to people, I don't even think he brings flowers in, because he doesn't learn, because Riona doesn't stick around to the cafe long enough for him to understand the situation. Lou and Bailey's, I'm lumping them together since it's covered through Lua, but mostly through Bailey's. He offers to help Silver aid those that are on the run, a sort of underground railroad for the aliens. She herself stands up to the man in black, the member of, I think they call it Fire or some shit. It's like ice, but for aliens. And so she's got that fire within her. I gotta make the pun. Bailey's offers to help and does so in endings in which Silver can continue his organization called Save. Bailey's helps through relaying information, messages, helping house people, and I didn't expect that to Bailey's be the one to do that. It's wonderful shit. Meanwhile, Hyde does jack fucking shit. Like, Hyde has his own personal house. He could house aliens there and just be like, oh yeah, I'm just fucking upon them, right? But no, it's down to the Twinkie elf. Silver themselves, he works to start a cafe of sorts that functions as a cover for helping other aliens hide on Earth. A gathering place, place to get resources and such. In the endings where he doesn't get a good one, he goes on the run and relies on Baileys to lend what aid he can. But in his good ending, it's implied that he operates his organization to the betterment of the lives of many people that would see harm befall them because of the government. Which, yeah, that shit's happening in real life, yeah. And, it's been happening for centuries. In fact, if you go beyond the United States of America, it's been happening for a very long time. There's always been groups of people that other people don't like. Sometimes it's because they refuse to not ingratiate themselves, integrate. They refuse to integrate into the culture they're moving into, which, yeah, if you're bringing a bunch of shitty old world bullshit to their front door, maybe don't fucking do that, asshole. And it happened for a long time. Man. Yeah, I think that's it. Advocacy section done. Next section. Trans/autism allegories. That's right, another one that was hard to name. This section was a bit tricky to name, but mostly where to put it. I ended up just writing these in the order that the topics came to mind, but there was an hour where I was debating where to put this. Even if I went alphabetical, do I go T for trans or A for autism? Amanda gives off autism-coded vibes, though Silver also does. Back when he was Neil, it was more so like that, so maybe aliens in general, or just hivers, are meant to represent those on the spectrum. Of course, it's easy to label any character that is an alien that struggles with socialization and the like as autistic, but with the racism allegories and such, I feel like it's at the very least applicable, if not allegorical. I gotta bring up also that it's like a non-human, non-binary character. This is like a trope where it's like, oh, if you want to explore non-binary stuff, you have be an alien or a robot or whatever. In this case, it's... Well, I mean, that is also true, right? But that's for in a little bit, though. For now, though, it's... I wouldn't say it's lazy, but it's like exploring characters that come off as autism-coded, right? In the form of non-humans. Is just kind of like, It could be chalked up to cultural differences between, aliens and humans, or I would just say Earthlings, I guess. But it's not that it's not done. It's done well, right? Empathy is the thing to be got from all of this, to better understand people, to understand how to communicate with them, and to help them communicate with you, which is equally as important, because if it's just a one-way street, you're infantilizing them. My speech impediment gets my ass sometimes, and not in a fun way. Amanda, though, she's bright, but socially stunted. She never stops being wholly an alien, which helps show that you don't need to fix people on the spectrum. Silver's acceptance of his own Earthling side is another issue entirely. In that, it comes off more as being trans, an individual who doesn't align with their gender assigned at birth, right? See, Neil defaults. Well, I guess the aliens. Also, with the hive mind, is it that each individual, is it like Geth, where it's like each one is a lot of them, or is it like collectively they're a big ol' hive mind? I don't quite get how that works with it. It's altogether a little bit funky to me, but it's very interesting. Anyway, yeah, Silver comes off as not only non-binary coded, right, but also transmasculine, in that they're choosing to assume the shape of a dude. And even says that they base their appearance partially off of Hyde with the eyes, and then partially off of Gala. Though, that was mostly the outfit, and it answers the question of why the fuck was Silver wearing medical garb at the end of Coffee Talk 1. And that answers it. I wonder if that was just made up on the spot for this, or if it's like always planned along. I didn't make the connection. Then again, I don't really stare at characters' eyes and then cross-reference them. In my footage, though, I was like, huh. I brought up a picture of, like, I brought up a picture of Hyde, and I was looking at Silver, and I was looking at the two. But it's very fitting to have a character exploring these sorts of themes when this entire channel is about covering games for a dead trans dude. Learning to accept himself for who they really are is one of the main themes for Silver. It's the feelings of becoming your true self that trans people go through, and it's beautifully done. Showing off trans joy and pride, in that Silver is unwilling to detransition back into full alien hive mode, so that the government doesn't try to kill him. Truly, death before detransition. As well, telling your partner what or who you are is a very intimate thing, and it's something that comes up as well, because he tells, what the fuck is her name, like Pearl or something? Some kind of a P name, I believe. And with how things are going in this country that I live in, and I assume a lot of other countries, having to hide from the government is more fitting than ever. And with that, that is the section on being autistic or being trans in this game, and how the game helps show those two things off. Next up is going to be what it means to leave your family, something that I, and several characters, judging by my notes, have had to deal with. Leaving one's family is a topic that hits close to home for me personally, so I'm glad that I saw the game covered in multiple ways, with multiple flavors of disconnect from one's family. Riona's case is a bit more mild than the other two, in that she wanted to explore her individuality and become her own person, away from her family. Taking the time to learn how to drive, she left the community she grew up in to try and make it on her own, facing the harsh realities of life as a minority disconnected from her people. Thankfully, she found people to care for, and care for her, in return, at the cafe. Over the course of the game, we see her slowly open up more and more towards Lucas, Georgie, Rachel, and I want to say a couple of other of the patrons. And as she does, she slowly acclimates towards having people in her life again, having not really spoken to anybody in a long time. I think she mentions at one point that the last week or 2 weeks of going to the cafe are the most amount of talking she's done in years, I believe she said. She's still relatively young, if I remember right, in her 20s. Or the equivalent for banshees. I'm not quite sure how their aging and physiology work, but social development is still probably crucial, even for semi-corporeal beings. Next up, we have Silver, who technically is the one with the most extreme example of the three that focus on leaving one's family, in that they left their people's hive mind, something that apparently is operating on a multi-galactic scale. I believe at one point Amanda mentions that they have, thousands of members per galaxy, and I assume that the way we're talking about it's plural, so there's a lot of galaxies that there's just a lot of them, and they're spread out. I don't know how. Apparently they can still connect to the hive mind from where they are. So, well, Amanda can fully. Silver is disconnected due to choosing their individuality and their, what's a good word for it? I guess humanity, because they are kind of just taking the shape of a human, right? Silver's just some dude, some twinkish being. Pearl, or whatever her name is a lucky woman for getting it with Silver. The depths of emotions that Silver gains as a result of exploring their humanity is a trade-off from losing access to the hive mind. Their structure, their purpose within the larger group is something that, beyond just making sure that they produce a child with somebody on Earth, so that Earth has a superhero, I guess, they are willing to leave behind all that they knew and embrace their new home, which they've spent the last 3 years on. And they wish to live their life to the fullest, having made, in a way, a new hive mind, or a hive, or however they worded it. There's a lot of, like, little playful talks of, like, oh, player character, you have your own hive here with all these patrons and such. And it's interesting seeing somebody from one social grouping that differs from the norm, taking the ideas of it and applying it to an outsider's world, basically. I don't know, I'm trying to think of, like, good examples of that in other settings. I guess the Iron Bull from Dragon Age Inquisition, in that he's still stuck on some old concepts of the Qun, right? And while there are some, like, the writing sometimes isn't entirely consistent, but it is interesting how he tries to apply ideas from the Qun towards being outside of the Qun. Bailey's has a story that is more like my own, in that we needed to break free of our families in general. His family being a bunch of rich dicks who didn't want him to race mix with an inferior demon being. While mine chose to indulge in old senile woman instead of the wishes of the deceased, that being my old man. While I am in contact with cousins and my uncle, he himself seems to have gone no contact. Bailey's, not my uncle. My uncle still talks to his parents. Including the woman that beat him as a child. Save for his memories of his great-great-aunt, Bailey's doesn't allow much of his mental bandwidth to be spent dealing with his family. Finding a new family amongst the patrons of Coffee Talk, in addition to his now wife as of the end of Coffee Talk 2, he has blossomed into his own person after finally breaking off from the cunty behavior of the elves. As I've said before, I myself had to break away from my family due to their shitty behavior and weakness. My life has gotten harder since then, but I have a slightly less stressful one now. As well as the fact that life is just more worth living now, especially with this channel slowly growing and proving that, in fact, it's not an issue of if I can grow and be successful on YouTube. It's just a matter of when I can get partnered. What is the ruler of everything? Mechanical hands. That's right. It's time for aging and changing. Because there's more than one way for time to afflict you and turn you into a big old dusty bag of bones. Gala and Hyde both face long as hell lifespans that dwarf those of humans. Gala seemingly going to last another century or two, while Hyde seems to be facing several centuries at the bare minimum. Existential dread fills this flippant man, while his beefy boyfriend is fine with his chosen career. Against the tides of time, Hyde is facing a near eternity on his lonesome. Eventually, at some point, he does reference the fact that at least somebody else will be around for him to be close with, to always be there to support him. That being the player character, us, the barista. Gala is observant with his gay little shifty eyes, And over time, he's noticed, oh, we do in fact have time manipulation powers and seem to be able to stick around for a long, long time. Hendry is a more normal take on the idea, on the subject, in that he is beginning to forget things, which reminds me of my own grandpa. As I said, my grandma slowly going senile. My grandpa was showing the starting signs of it. And I worry about them from time to time, because I haven't seen Grandpa in about a year, because he would show up over here and try to get me to go see her, and it's like, no, I'm not going to go see the woman that disowned me via a letter from the funeral home that they had written up so that I would get discredited enough that they could call upon the chief of police to ensure that I didn't get to keep the ashes. Thankfully, I was able to negotiate down to keeping half the ashes, but still, I was never going to see that bitch again, and I don't plan on it. Rachel stays with Hendry, in their family home, to help him more. She's a good daughter, and the two of them work together, day by day. With him appearing in the next game, I hope the best for him, since it would be really sad to have him show up in the next game and he's showing signs of senility, because we don't really know how fast the Nico Mimis age, right? And compared to Hyde, whose issues are more just existential dread from a little pissy baby little boy who's like, yo, I'm getting bored of modeling. When in reality, he's probably getting bored of being alone for so long. And he needs this, he's like a shitty little cat. Which is funny, because Hendry and Rachel are non-shitty little kitty people. When they're not, they are little kitty people when they turn into little kitties, which is adorable. Oh man. Next up, I'll be covering the main story of the game, basically, as well as the two secret characters I haven't spoken of. And, man, the ending of the game, all of it, all the endings, overall with the story, brought a lot of tears to my eyes. And every time I see the especially secret character, it makes me moist in an ocular way. I've saved what can be considered the main story for last, as the central theme of the game and the two characters that only appear in the last day / finale. The main story of the game involves also the main theme: loss, the grief of those that we've lost. Something that I know well. Long time ago, there was a fairy or something. Some sort of being that didn't fit the classifications the government had made in relation to the fantasy races that were popping up. Any that didn't meet the qualifications for other groups were sort of just lumped together into fairy, in the same way that I assume a bunch of different Hispanic backgrounds and such are lumped into, white Hispanic or whatever it is on the sheets. I never know what to put because I'm mixed and stuff. Fun government bullshit there. Anyway, Georgie's grandfather bought a lighter from those people, from those fairies and such. Quite possibly from the one that ended up dying from a drunk driver. If I remember right, the drunk driver's father was some government official. I can't quite remember in what capacity he served the public, but due to his connections, he only got a slap on the wrist for drunk driving, and maybe like leaving the scene or something, because the remains that were left behind by that fantastical creature was like, it's a shitty tree, right? I don't know what else to say other than it was a tree. I think it was like 8 foot tall, shriveled, looked awful. But that was their body, basically. Their dead body. The only sign that they existed. Because of the way that memories and such work amongst the fairy folk. There was an agreement drafted, however, to leave the tree free to sit by an official, I believe unrelated to the drunk driver's father, or it could have been the same guy. It's been like a week or so since I finished the game, and I've had a lot of concussions in my lifetime. My memory is not what it used to be. It used to be a unicorn. But after the death of the official that had kept his promise for so many years, so many decades, even beyond his time of service in the city government. It might have been the mayor or something. It was some like high up guy. A guy who could be like, no, leave the ugly tree. It is the dead body of a murder victim, basically. But after the death of the official that made that promise, the city removed it because they saw it as an eyesore. Which, yeah, it was an eyesore. But it was an eyesore... I don't know, man. I get wanting to keep your dead friend's memory alive, but surely there's a way to transplant the trees into, like, a grove of dead people. But then it is like, yeah, like, dude was murdered, so, like, maybe this is the best marker for, like, hey, don't do this sort of stuff. This stuff is bad. Killing people while you're drunk driving, not great, bro. And having been this actually ties back. You know what? This is off script. I actually read all this stuff as the script. I'm going off script now because like I was like I gotta write all this as a script or else I'm not gonna do it justice. But I have to go off script now because I didn't think about it. But this actually does tie into things. So basically, what happened was a drunk driver hit a teenager and killed her. I think it was on impact. I hope she didn't suffer. But, at the time, there was no 3 strikes law, right? You could just keep drunk driving and keep fucking up and keep getting caught. I believe it's a felony now if you get caught the 3rd time, though. One of my distant cousins drinks and drives regular, and he was on his 3rd strike, and he just keeps playing the, oh, I'm just a poor white boy card, and he keeps getting away with it, because he's a piece of shit, and, is conventionally attractive, so he keeps getting away. He gets a pretty pass. But, my old man witnessed it firsthand, because he was in the car behind her, and the way that the drunk driver hit her was from up front. I believe it was, I can remember the corner, and so I'm pretty sure, it might have been a T-bone situation. But my old man witnessed that. So, drunk driving and the repercussions of it have been in his mind since he was like 17, 16 or so. Mind you, he was also transitioned back when he was in high school. He had... Because I come from a track family. I didn't do track myself because I've always been fat as fuck, and they didn't want me doing track, like the track people. They were all shitty about it, and it's like, okay, I guess I won't lose weight and use... I have good stamina, right? I could outrun some of my friends that were in track. I just, I was better at short distance running than long distance, but that was just because I wasn't trained up, right? I could have ended up running fairly well and for long distances. But he had placements in both the women's and then the men's category once he transitioned. Oddly progressive for the school to be like, yeah, you get to run in the men's side of things now. And so he had placements in both categories, and it's just wild. He actually beat Grandpa's older actors. Grandpa did track as well, and it's another thing that I get reminded of. These sort of things when you lose family members and something can just trigger an old memory, and it's like, yeah, that was another thing my old man was pretty good at back before the decades of smoking got up to him. He was a pretty good runner, which is also thematically appropriate because he also ran away from a lot of his problems too. Drug addiction is a great way to hide from your problems. But upon the removal of the tree by the city government, the remaining friends of the deceased decided to commit vandalism in a way to try to get back at the city, as well as to keep their friend alive. These fey creatures, right? I don't know how they operate in terms of things like morality or like thought processes. I don't like fey creatures in fantasy settings. They, in terms of just like, they're just bad. They're just awful people. I would never want to deal with any of them. Every encounter I have heard of is just like, man, just burn them all. Just burn them. Just light them all. Just nuke them from orbit. Just open a thing to the Feywild and toss some nukes in there. Just remove it all. Just fuck it all. Georgie, Lucas, and Riona work together, along with Rachel as a featuring friend in this escapade, to keep the memory alive and to set up a small shrine for the lost friend. But that fairy was not the only friend that was lost. The entire game is haunted by the absence of somebody. Somebody that was foundational in it even existing. When Freya returns to the game, having been gone from the majority of it, she mentions going on a residency for writers, several months long, with an old friend of hers. This is the default ending, but the secret ending reveals who the old friend is. And that friend would be Mohammed Fahmy. Mohammed Fahmy was the lead writer of Coffee Talk 1, and was to be the lead writer of 2, but died mid-production. From what I've read, they had to pivot the story due to his death. I suspect that the main story that remains is in some way a reflection of the new reality that they were facing. The remaining staff members' way of showing off through the world he helped create the effects that loss brings. The love that still remains, and there's no moment in his appearance in the game that is lacking in that love. Our last words to him are to wish him well on his journey, even if his time with us wasn't very long. Fahmy died at the age of 32, 1 year older than I am now. From what I have found, it was due to medical issues, asthma. I am grateful for the team he left behind to have shared with us their grief for his loss, their love for him. It's not easy. I assume that many tears were shed by the writer for this for his scene. The artist that recreated him. Because I couldn't hold him back myself. He'd be around 35 years old now. But his works, his own feelings, they still exist. I intend to play other games that he's worked on, story-focused ones, in the future. In a way, he, through his inclusion in the game, hopes show what it is that I've tried to do with my video biographical work, making it so that the person never really dies, that a part of them will exist in digital form and help us to remember them, just as those gnomes wanted to make sure that their friend was never forgotten. I've waited this whole time to talk about Fami. I didn't know if I should have waited for this game to discuss him further, but I'm glad that I did. His inclusion is one of the most meaningful things I've ever seen in a game. I've seen other people memorialized before, but this one hit especially hard since it was his words that would have come out of Freya, as they would have in the first game, but they didn't get to. This game is one of the most beautiful ones I've ever played. I'm so glad that I got it along with the first game when I did. Loss is hard to talk about, but it's the point of my channel. We must grieve those that we love the most. It can be hard to keep living without them. But I've got things to do, things I need to get done. I need to keep playing these games. I need to raise awareness for those that are at risk of being systemically targeted for violence. I need to do what I can in a world that largely doesn't want us here. This game reminds me of what I need to do and why I need to do it. I need to do it for people like Silver and Amanda, those whose natures are reviled for not fitting into the norm. For people like Bailey's and Lua, whose relationship draws ire from those that do not understand that living conditions need not be determined by what's between your legs. For people like Aqua, Myrtle, Gala, and Hyde, whose love would be made illegal if given the chance. For people like Riona, Lucas, and Rachel, who are seen as lesser, as the other, for just what they are. I love this game, and I think that you might too, so please, if you are looking for a game with a story worth spending a night or two with, consider Coffee Talk 2, or get them in a bundle, since, well, it would be kind of weird to play 2 without having played 1. Still, due to a lack of having the space currently, I have not made a small shrine for my old man yet, so Lucas, Riona, and Fami go into this digital collage. I'd like to thank you for watching, as well as my current paying patron over on Patreon. There's only one at the moment, but their support still means a lot to me. His name is Connor, and I thank him for showing me financial support. If you'd like to support me, there's a link to my Patreon in the description of this video. My next big video is on Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. Before that, though, I'll be covering the game episodically on the channel through the month of Spooktober. See you next time, and until then, stay safe, stay alive, and remember that trans rights are human rights.